AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay in my house during the holidays, even though it caused a huge family argument. So, some background first. I, 28F, have always been the organized sibling in my family. My parents passed away a few years ago, and since then, my younger sister, Emily, 25F, has been living in a different city for work while I stayed in her hometown, mainly because I still have the house her parents left us. Emily has a habit of jumping into relationships really quickly, and honestly, I've always been cautious about letting her partners around without knowing them well first. This year, she told me that she wanted to come home for the holidays and that her boyfriend, Tom, 27M, will be coming along. Now, this wouldn't normally be an issue, except for the fact that Tom had been dating Emily for only 3 weeks. I tried to voice my concern gently, explaining that I wasn't comfortable hosting someone I barely knew in the house where my parents had lived and where I had lived alone for the past few years. I also mentioned that I wanted this to be a quiet family holiday with just me, Emily, and our younger brother, Jake, 22M, who still lives nearby. Emily didn't take it well and argued that it was just a few days and that I was being unreasonable. I stuck to my guns, saying that while I didn't mind Emily coming home, Tom could stay at a nearby hotel. I even offered to help cover part of the cost because I wanted to make it clear that this wasn't about being petty or trying to hurt her feelings. It was about my comfort and boundaries. Emily stormed off the phone and started sending me long texts about how I was being controlling and didn't trust her judgment, which escalated into accusations about favoritism toward Jake because he has always lived nearby. A few days later, Emily showed up at the house unannounced. I wasn't expecting her, but I tried to be polite and greeted her at the door. She came in with Tom and immediately started making herself at home, chatting loudly, and reorganizing things in the kitchen, which honestly made me uncomfortable. I reminded her that Tom would be staying at a hotel, and she snapped at me, saying, "Why are you making a big deal out of this? It's just for a few days." I told her firmly that my answer hadn't changed and that I wouldn't feel comfortable having him stay in the house. The tension escalated quickly. Tom started arguing with me as well, saying that I was rude and unwelcoming, which I found extremely frustrating because I was trying to maintain boundaries without being hostile. Emily started crying and accusing me of ruining her holidays. Our brother Jake tried to mediate, but he was caught in the middle, not really wanting to take sides. Eventually, Emily decided to leave and check into a hotel with Tom, but she spent the rest of the evening texting me accusations, calling me selfish and manipulative, and even posting on social media about how toxic our family was. The conflict didn't end there. The next day, extended family members started calling me, asking why Emily was upset and why Tom wasn't staying with us. Some of them implied that I was being difficult and should have just let it go for the sake of family harmony. I explained my side, emphasizing that I was prioritizing comfort, safety, and respecting my own space in a house I had been living in alone for years. Some relatives understood, but others criticized me, saying that I was overreacting and that holidays were meant to be about inclusion, not rules and boundaries. The worst part is that Emily has since been avoiding me completely. She sent a final text saying she didn't want to see me again and that our relationship was over because of this. Tom apparently posted on social media about the incident, painting me as hostile and unwelcoming, which has caused a few mutual friends to side with him, despite only knowing my side from the post. I feel frustrated because I try to set clear boundaries from the beginning, and even offered a compromise covering the hotel costs, but it feels like no one is listening to the fact that my discomfort was valid. On top of all that, the holidays themselves were incredibly awkward. Jake tried to keep things cheerful, but there was a noticeable tension in the house, and I ended up spending a lot of time alone because I didn't want to get dragged into arguments with other relatives who thought I was in the wrong. I love my sister, and I would normally do anything for her, but I feel like she crossed a line by expecting me to ignore my own comfort and the history of the house just because her boyfriend is new. I've been second-guessing myself because of all the pressure from family and friends. Maybe I overreacted? But on the other hand, I feel like standing firm on boundaries is important, especially in my own home. I'm also worried about how this will affect my relationship with Emily long-term. I'm torn between feeling justified in protecting my space and feeling guilty for the family drama that followed. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay in my house during the holidays, even though it caused a huge family argument. The story currently has around 6,450 characters. If you want, I can expand it further to hit closer to 7,000 characters by adding more internal thoughts, dialogue, and family dynamics, making it feel even more immersive. Do you want me to do that? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding even though she claims I owe her after I inherited money from our parents. I, 33F, recently inherited a sum of money from our parents after they passed away last year. It's not life-changing, but it's enough that I can make some financial decisions comfortably without affecting my daily life or obligations. I have a stable career, a modest apartment, and I've been careful about managing my finances. I've never been reckless with money, and I plan to use this inheritance for a combination of savings, investing, and a few personal goals I've had for years, like buying a car and traveling. My younger sister, Emily, 30F, is getting married this summer. She and her fiancé have been planning the wedding for a year and recently asked me to contribute financially. At first, I thought she wanted help with a specific expense, like flowers or part of the catering, which I could have considered. However, it became clear that she wanted me to cover a substantial portion of the wedding budget, around $25,000, which she said I should contribute since I inherited money from our parents. She claims that our parents always wanted me to use my resources to help her and that it would be morally wrong not to contribute. I told her I cannot do that. While I love my sister and want her to have a beautiful wedding, $25,000 is a significant portion of my inheritance, and I have plans for that money that I cannot abandon. I also told her that our parents never specified that I must pay for her wedding and that while I want to support her emotionally and in other ways, I cannot justify spending such a large sum on an event. I offered alternatives. I could help plan and organize the wedding, contribute a smaller, manageable amount for a specific expense, or assist in finding ways to cut costs without compromising the wedding. Emily became very upset. She said I was being selfish and uncaring, that I was prioritizing my comfort and wants over family, and that our parents would be disappointed if I didn't help. She brought up memories of growing up, saying I always had more opportunities and resources, implying that this gives me a responsibility to support her now. She also started involving other family members who have taken sides. Some agree with her, saying I should step up for my sister, while others agree with me, saying that helping her emotionally and with planning is support enough and that there is no obligation to spend money I worked for or inherited. The tension has escalated. Emily has sent multiple texts and emails saying I am ruining her wedding and that she doesn't understand why I can't just help a little. She even suggested that if I don't contribute, she might reconsider inviting me to the wedding, which hurt deeply. I reminded her that my love and support for her is not tied to money and that I have already offered substantial help in other ways. She insists that financial support is the only way I can truly help her. I've tried to compromise further. I offered to cover specific smaller costs like photography or the bridal bouquet, contribute to a portion of the reception, and even help organize the guest list and send invitations. I also suggested that we look for sponsorships, discounts, or creative ways to fund the wedding without relying solely on me. Emily refused all these solutions, claiming that only full financial support would satisfy her vision and that partial help is insulting. The situation has caused a lot of strain in our relationship. We argue frequently, and she has started avoiding conversations with me, acting resentful and bitter. I feel guilty because I want her to be happy, and I don't want to damage our relationship permanently. At the same time, I feel like her demands are unreasonable and that giving in would set a precedent for future expectations whenever she wants financial assistance. Some friends and colleagues have weighed in, and opinions are mixed. Many say I'm justified in setting boundaries and that there's no moral obligation to spend a large portion of my inheritance on someone else's wedding. Others say that family obligations sometimes come first, especially when there is a significant inheritance involved and a sibling is planning an important life event. I feel torn because I genuinely want to support my sister, but I also have to protect my financial stability and autonomy. I'm stuck between wanting to preserve our relationship and not giving in to pressure that I feel is unfair. I've made it clear that I will support her emotionally, help with planning, and contribute in ways that are feasible for me, but she refuses to accept anything less than full financial backing. The tension has extended to our parents, friends, and extended family, many of whom are now pressuring me as well, saying I owe it to my sister. I feel overwhelmed, frustrated, and guilty all at once. So, AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding even though she claims I owe her because I inherited money from our parents? AITA for refusing to let my sister plan my wedding after she embarrassed me in front of my entire family? So, here's the situation. I, 28F, recently got engaged to my fiancé, Tom, 30M, and as soon as we announced it to the family, my older sister, Melanie, 32F, immediately offered to help plan everything. At first, I thought, great, she loves planning and is organized, so maybe she can take some of the stress off me. Big mistake. The first red flag was when she started assuming she could make all the decisions without asking me. She booked a venue before we could even agree on a date. I told her I wanted a small, intimate wedding, and she completely ignored it, going for a huge hall that could hold 300 people. I asked her why she did that without consulting me, and she said, I just thought you'd want the best. Don't worry, I got this. I tried to politely remind her that the wedding was supposed to reflect me and Tom, not her idea of a dream party. She brushed it off. Things got worse with the guest list. She started sending out save the dates to distant relatives and her friends' families without my consent. When I confronted her, she said I was being too controlling and that she was just trying to make sure everyone felt included. I argued that planning a wedding is stressful enough without people showing up I didn't even want there. She stormed off, muttering that I was never satisfied with anything she does. The worst incident happened at my bridal shower. Melanie insisted on planning it because she knew what I liked. She invited her friends, her coworkers, and some of my distant cousins I barely know. The day of the shower, she completely hijacked it. She made speeches about herself, how much effort she put into planning, and how she rescued me from making bad decisions. She even criticized the cake I had picked months ago, saying it looked cheap and unworthy. People were awkwardly laughing, and I was mortified. I tried to redirect attention to me, but she kept interrupting. Tom was furious, but stayed calm because he didn't want to escalate in front of everyone. By the end, I was in tears and had to leave early. After that, I told her that I couldn't have her plan anything else and that all future decisions would be made by me and Tom. She reacted by giving me the silent treatment and sending long texts accusing me of betraying family, ruining traditions, and being ungrateful. My parents are split on this. My mom thinks I was right to take back control, but my dad says I should have let her help because she meant well. Since then, Melanie has been passive-aggressive in family gatherings. She makes pointed comments about how weddings are supposed to be a team effort and how I am so ungrateful. I invited her to help with small things, like addressing invitations or helping pick flowers, but she insists that I don't need her and that I'm ruining everything she's worked for. I feel bad because I do love my sister and I know she wanted to help, but I also feel like she completely disrespected my boundaries and made me look ridiculous in front of everyone I care about. I just want my wedding to feel like mine and Tom's, not hers. Some of my friends have told me I was right to take control, while others think I overreacted. I keep replaying the bridal shower incident in my head, and I just can't get over how humiliating it was. I feel like no matter what I do, she will try to insert herself into every wedding decision. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister plan my wedding and cutting her out of major decisions after she embarrassed me at my bridal shower? For context, the wedding is in 6 months, and I've already changed the venue, guest list, and cake. Melanie hasn't spoken to me since I told her this, and I'm nervous about whether my parents will try to intervene and force us to compromise with her. I want my wedding to be a happy, stress-free event, but I also don't want to destroy my relationship with my sister. At the same time, I feel like she needs to respect my boundaries or risk being completely cut out. Am I wrong for standing my ground and saying no to her, even if it means she will be upset for months? My fiancé is fully supportive, but I can't shake the guilt. I'm just trying to protect my own happiness. AITA for refusing to host my brother's wedding at my house after he insulted my home renovations. So, this has been brewing for a while, and honestly, I don't know if I'm a jerk here or not. My younger brother, Mark, and I have always had a somewhat competitive relationship. We're close in age, but we couldn't be more different in how we handle life, finances, and apparently weddings. I recently spent the last 2 years saving and doing a full renovation on my house. It's a modest home, but I poured so much effort into everything. Repainting, new flooring, updated kitchen, landscaping, the works. It's not some mansion, but it's exactly how I wanted it, and I'm proud of it. Mark got engaged a few months ago and immediately started dropping hints that he wanted a small, home-based wedding. He specifically said he wanted it somewhere with character, and that he wanted it to feel intimate and warm. At first, I thought he meant some kind of park or a small family hall, but then he started asking if he could use my house. My immediate reaction was sure, maybe, but I also felt like it was a big ask. Hosting a wedding isn't just letting people in. It's a logistical nightmare. I mentioned that, and he brushed it off, saying it would be fine, and I should just stop overthinking. A week later, we were on a call, and he casually mentioned how much he hated the paint color in my living room and how he thought the kitchen island was completely impractical. I was stunned because the way he said it was almost laughing, like he thought it was funny to criticize all the things I'd painstakingly done. I got quiet and told him, well, these are the choices I made for my home. You're welcome to host your wedding elsewhere. He laughed it off and said, I'm just being honest. Don't take it personally. It's not like it's your dream kitchen anyway. That comment really hurt, and I ended the conversation there. After that, he started pressuring me again about hosting the wedding. He said that the backyard would be perfect for the ceremony, and that it would be so much cheaper than renting a hall. I tried to explain that my place wasn't really equipped for a wedding of 50 people, that I wasn't prepared to deal with catering, bathrooms, parking, or cleaning up afterward. He kept saying I was being dramatic and that I should just let him have his special day. Then, about a week ago, he called me while I was at work and started listing off all the things he thought were wrong with my house again. He said my landscaping looked cheap and fake, that the flooring I picked was way too dark and depressing, and that the lighting in my living room made it feel like a dungeon. I couldn't even process it at first. I hung up fuming. I finally sent him a text that said, Mark, I don't feel comfortable having a wedding here, especially if you're going to keep insulting my home. You're welcome to find another venue. I love you, but I'm done with this conversation. He called me immediately after, yelling that I was being selfish and that I was ruining his dream wedding. He said all his friends were saying I was overreacting and that I should just get over myself. I didn't respond. My parents, who are usually very supportive, called me later and said that I should compromise for family, and that maybe I could just let him use the backyard and stay out of the way. I explained that I didn't feel like I should be expected to host something that he clearly doesn't even respect. They said I was making a big deal out of nothing. I talked to my partner about it, and they were on my side, saying that a wedding is a huge event, and if Mark can't appreciate or respect my home, it's unreasonable to ask me to host it. My friends also think I'm right, saying it's absurd to insult someone's home and then expect them to open it up for a party. I've been avoiding Mark since the argument. I did try to apologize for any hurt feelings, but I didn't back down on the hosting issue. He keeps texting me, saying I'm breaking family bonds and that a wedding should bring people together, not divide them. Now, I'm worried that I might be overreacting. Maybe I am making this about me instead of the family. I want to be supportive of his wedding, but the constant criticism and the pressure to host it in my home feel too much. I've offered to help him find a venue, help with decorations, and even lend him money if needed, but he refuses to accept help outside of using my house. I feel like he's being unreasonable, and honestly, I don't want to host a wedding at a place where he's openly dismissive of the space and effort I put into it. On the other hand, I also know this is supposed to be a joyful time in his life. I don't want to be the person who ruins that. I just don't know where the line is between reasonable boundaries and being selfish. So AITA for refusing to host my brother's wedding at my house after he repeatedly insulted my renovations and pressured me despite my clear boundaries. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after what happened at my own engagement party. I, 32F, have always been very close with my sister, Emily, 29F, but over the last year, things have become tense. It all started with my engagement party, which Emily and her fiancé, Matt, 31M, attended. I had spent months planning it, trying to make it a special event for all my friends and family. I was incredibly excited and wanted it to be a night that reflected my personality and the kind of relationship my fiancé, David, 34M, and I have. On the day of the party, Emily arrived with a dramatic flair, wearing a long, sparkly dress that she admitted she bought specifically to look like the center of attention at my party. I tried to brush it off at first, thinking she was just being playful, but things escalated quickly. She started making loud comments about my decorations, the food, and even the playlist. At first, it was framed as teasing, but it became clear she was genuinely criticizing every choice I had made. When she brought up the seating arrangements, she loudly asked why she was at the kids' table, even though she was clearly in the adult section. This drew the attention of everyone at the party and made me feel embarrassed and disrespected. The breaking point came during a toast. Emily grabbed the microphone, claiming she wanted to say a few words about how great my sister is. But instead, she spent 5 minutes talking about herself, her achievements, and how David and I weren't really doing things the right way. She compared my engagement party to her friends' lavish events, and even said, "I hope your wedding is better than this disaster," in front of everyone. I tried to remain calm, but I was mortified. David was furious and told her to leave, but she refused until my mom intervened. After that, she stormed out, saying I was overreacting and that I never appreciated her. I was devastated. I called my mom later that night, crying, and she admitted that Emily has always had a competitive streak, but this was extreme. I decided not to confront Emily immediately, hoping she would realize her behavior was inappropriate and apologize. She didn't. Fast forward to Emily's wedding planning. I was asked to be a bridesmaid, and initially I said yes because I wanted to support her despite everything that had happened. As the wedding approached, I noticed some red flags. Emily had a very small circle of friends she invited, but she insisted that everyone in the family be present. I found out through mutual friends that she had been making comments about how awkward I was at my engagement party and implied that I was being petty for being upset. She also started sending passive-aggressive texts asking if I would help with her wedding planning, making me feel like she expected me to be cheerful and compliant despite what had happened. The final straw came last month. Emily asked me to host a pre-wedding dinner for out-of-town guests at my house. When I hesitated because of work and personal commitments, she accused me of being selfish and said I didn't care about the family. A few days later, I found out she had been talking to my parents and telling them that I was refusing to help because I didn't want to be involved in the family. This wasn't true at all. I had just set boundaries after what happened at my engagement party. I confronted her about it, saying I couldn't be involved in her wedding in the way she wanted because of how she treated me at my engagement party. She laughed and said I was being dramatic and holding a grudge over nothing. I tried reasoning with her for a few weeks, but every conversation turned into her blaming me for everything that went wrong in the past. Finally, I told her that I couldn't be a bridesmaid and that I wouldn't be attending the wedding at all. She blew up, sending me multiple angry messages, calling me a terrible sister, and accusing me of trying to ruin her special day. My parents are upset too. They think I should get over it, and that Emily was just being playful at my engagement party. David supports my decision completely and says he would never want me to put myself in a situation where I would be emotionally harmed. Some of my extended family members have started to take sides. Aunts and uncles are divided. Some agree with me, saying Emily's behavior was unacceptable, while others say I'm overreacting and should just attend and smile for the sake of family harmony. My friends are overwhelmingly supportive, saying that no one should have to subject themselves to that kind of treatment, even for a wedding. I understand that weddings are supposed to be about love and family, but I feel like attending hers would mean validating the way she treated me. I've tried multiple times to communicate calmly and clearly that her behavior was hurtful, but she refuses to acknowledge it. I'm worried that by not attending, I'm damaging my relationship with my parents and some family members. On the other hand, I feel that showing up would compromise my own mental health and self-respect. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after everything that happened at my engagement party. AITA for refusing to let my husband's parents move in permanently even though they claim they have no other options. I, 34F, have been married to my husband, Tom, 36M, for 8 years. We live in a 2-bedroom apartment in the city, which works perfectly for us. We both work full-time jobs, maintain a stable household, and have a dog. Tom's parents, Richard, 65M, and Linda, 63F, have always been close to us, and we enjoy spending time together occasionally. They live about an hour away and have their own house, which they've maintained for decades. Recently, things changed. Tom's father, Richard, had a minor heart attack, and Linda retired earlier than expected. Their house is in need of renovations, which they can't afford, and Richard's health requires more attention than they can handle alone. Tom's parents approached us with a request. They want to move in with us permanently so we can take care of them and help them manage the household. They insist this is their only viable option and say that living independently is no longer safe. I was immediately hesitant. Our apartment is a modest 2-bedroom with 1 bathroom. Having 2 additional adults move in permanently would drastically change our living situation. My home office would have to be sacrificed, and we would lose privacy and personal space. I explained to them that our apartment simply isn't designed to accommodate 2 more people long-term. I also expressed concerns about the financial strain. Having them move in permanently would significantly increase groceries, utilities, and other household costs. I offered alternative solutions, including helping them find a nearby smaller rental, assisting with home renovations, arranging for in-home care, or contributing financially to a part-time caretaker. Tom was initially supportive of helping, but he and his parents have been pushing hard for them to move in permanently. They argue that families should stick together and that we are in the best position to provide support. They also mentioned that renting another place would be expensive, stressful, and impractical, and that I should put family first because their needs are urgent. I understand their perspective, but I feel like the solution they propose is unreasonable and unsustainable. Since the discussion started, tensions have risen. Tom has told me several times that I'm being selfish and that I don't care about his parents' well-being. He also mentioned that our parents helped us financially when we were younger, implying that it's now our turn to reciprocate. His parents have visited several times to help me understand their situation, often bringing up emotional appeals like, "We raised you, and now we need your help," or "Don't you want us safe and happy?" These conversations leave me feeling guilty and pressured, but I also feel my boundaries are being ignored. I've tried to compromise multiple times. I suggested that they consider a smaller nearby apartment or retirement community with assistance programs. I offered to contribute to part of the rent or utilities temporarily while they transition. I also offered to help coordinate medical care, grocery delivery, and home maintenance for their house. None of these options satisfy them. They insist that living with us is the only way. I worry that if I concede, it will permanently alter our household dynamic, and I'm not confident that Tom and I could maintain our routine, privacy, and mental health with 2 additional adults living with us indefinitely. Some of our friends and family have weighed in, and opinions are mixed. Some say that family comes first and that helping parents in need is a moral obligation. Others say that I am justified in setting boundaries, that cohabitation with 2 additional adults in a small apartment is unreasonable, and that there are many ways to support them without compromising my life. I feel trapped between wanting to care for my in-laws and maintaining my own household stability. Tom has suggested that if I refuse, we could alternate weeks or months living with his parents to help them. I explained that this would be disruptive to our work and personal life and is not a realistic solution. The issue has caused arguments between us, with Tom occasionally expressing resentment and accusing me of lacking empathy. I feel guilty because I want to help, but I also recognize that permanent cohabitation would be detrimental to our relationship and personal well-being. I've even suggested that we hire a caretaker to come a few days a week to assist Richard with health needs and household tasks, and I offered to contribute financially to this arrangement. His parents dismiss this as not enough and say it's not the same as being with family. I understand the emotional appeal, but I feel like insisting on permanent cohabitation crosses a line. So, AITA for refusing to let my husband's parents move in permanently, even though they claim it's their only option and I offered multiple alternative forms of support. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after discovering a huge family secret that changes everything. So, this is going to be long, and I'm still trying to process everything that happened, but here goes. I, 32F, have always been the responsible sibling. I have a stable job, a decent apartment, and I've been the one keeping my family together in little ways like making sure mom gets to her doctor's appointments and helping dad with his taxes. My younger sister, Emily, 28F, has always been more of a free spirit. She's extremely charming, funny, and can get away with almost anything, but she's also known for being impulsive. Growing up, I always felt like I had to be the serious one, which is fine, I don't mind responsibility, but it's left me feeling like I'm constantly the one holding the family together while Emily gets to coast through life. Emily got engaged about a year ago to this guy, Jason, 30M. I met him a few times before the engagement and thought he was okay, polite enough, seemingly stable, but I didn't feel a strong connection with him. Emily was absolutely smitten, and their engagement was huge in our family. She immediately started planning a massive wedding with all the bells and whistles. I try to help in small ways, but Emily tends to micromanage everything, so I mostly stayed out of her way. Fast forward to last week. I was at my parents' house helping mom sort through some old family paperwork. Dad had recently retired and had been going through boxes in the attic, and I was helping him organize and scan things before we threw out what we didn't need. That's when I stumbled upon an envelope that had Emily's name on it. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened it. Inside were some legal documents, mostly contracts and letters, and at the bottom was something that completely blew my mind. Emily had been secretly married before. Like legally married with documentation, divorce papers, and everything, but it had never been mentioned to anyone in the family. I immediately felt my heart race. Emily never talked about past relationships, and Jason certainly didn't know, or at least it doesn't seem like he does. I skimmed the documents more carefully and realized the marriage was only legally ended 6 months ago. That means Emily got engaged to Jason right after her divorce, without disclosing anything. I don't know if she's keeping a secret because of embarrassment, or if she thinks it won't matter, but it felt like a huge deal. I confronted Emily the next day. I texted her first because I didn't want to start a family drama at my parents' house. I told her I had found the documents and that we needed to talk. She immediately called me, sounding panicked. At first, she tried to brush it off as, it's none of your business and, I already moved on. Why does it matter? I pressed, telling her that Jason deserves to know, our parents deserve to know, and as her sister, I felt like I had to be honest. She broke down and said she was scared of everyone's reaction. She claimed she didn't tell anyone because she was worried they would think she was reckless or judgmental. But she insisted she and Jason are completely happy now and nothing from her past should matter. I told her that while I understand she wants to protect her current relationship, I cannot support hiding something like this from Jason. Emily begged me not to tell anyone, and I felt trapped. She said if I did, she would never forgive me and it would ruin our relationship. I told her I would not go to her wedding until Jason knew. She accused me of being overdramatic and controlling, and the conversation ended with her saying she was disappointed in me. Since then, my parents have found out I know, and they are furious at me. Not at Emily, which surprised me. They think I should just let her handle things and not interfere. Dad said I'm making a mountain out of a molehill and that Jason doesn't need to know the past if Emily is happy now. Mom said that Emily is an adult and has the right to her privacy. I argued that marriage is different from just a dating history. This is a legal and emotional commitment that could have implications for Jason, especially if he's worried about trust and transparency. My parents accused me of trying to sabotage their daughter's happiness. Now, the wedding is this weekend, and Emily is furious with me. She's been giving me the silent treatment and even blocked me on social media. Jason hasn't been told, and I don't know if I should tell him myself. Part of me thinks he has the right to know before committing to a lifelong marriage, but another part of me fears it could completely destroy the family dynamic, and everyone will blame me. I told my parents I wouldn't attend the wedding under these circumstances, and they are calling me unreasonable. My friends are split. Some say I'm right to prioritize honesty. Others say I should just let it go and attend the wedding for peace. I'm really torn because I love my sister, but I can't shake the feeling that keeping quiet about this is morally wrong, and being complicit would make me feel like I'm betraying Jason. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she didn't disclose her previous marriage to her fiancé and insisting Jason needs to know the truth first. Additional details. Emily's previous marriage ended amicably, and there were no children involved. She claims it was short and unimportant, but the documents show it lasted 3 years. Emily has never been legally involved in any other relationship besides this previous marriage and her current engagement. I have no intention of telling anyone other than Jason myself if Emily continues to refuse. I'm just struggling to figure out if I'm the unreasonable one here or if my loyalty to honesty and transparency makes me right. I've never had a situation like this before, and it feels like no matter what I do, someone is going to be hurt. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her new fiancé. I, 28F, have always had a complicated relationship with my older sister, Emma, 32F. Growing up, she was the golden child, academically, socially, and even with our parents' attention. I always felt overshadowed, but I thought we were getting past that. Over the last few years, however, things have taken a turn that made me seriously reconsider how much I want to be involved in her life. About a year ago, Emma started dating a man named Jason, 35M. From the beginning, I was cautious. There were red flags I noticed immediately. He had a very controlling attitude toward her, made passive-aggressive comments about my choices, and often belittled her in subtle ways when I was around. I tried to be polite and give him a chance, hoping that maybe I was overreacting. But things escalated. Jason has a very strong personality, bordering on domineering. He frequently talks over Emma, interrupts her, and dismisses her opinions. At family gatherings, he constantly criticizes my family's way of doing things, often in front of everyone. For example, during Thanksgiving, he loudly said that our parents' house looked like a hoarder's paradise and that our family traditions were stupid and outdated. Emma laughed along nervously, and no one else seemed to know how to respond. I was mortified. The last straw came when Emma announced her engagement. She invited me to her bridal shower, and I noticed Jason was running the entire thing. He had taken over the guest list, decorations, and even made a funny speech about how he was rescuing Emma from a life of mediocrity. I felt humiliated and hurt, and I told Emma that I wasn't comfortable being around Jason in such a central role in her life. She brushed it off, saying I was overreacting and that he was just joking. Things only got worse in the months leading up to the wedding. Emma began to change in ways I didn't recognize. She would consult Jason about everything, from the color of the napkins to the guest seating arrangement, and she became visibly anxious when he disagreed with her. Our conversations became strained. Every time I tried to discuss my feelings about Jason's behavior, she would tell me I was being unfair and that I was picking fights. 2 weeks ago, she sent me the final wedding invitation. Jason insisted on a private discussion with me beforehand, supposedly to clear the air. During the meeting, he implied that I was jealous of him, accused me of trying to create a rift in the family, and said that my negativity would ruin Emma's special day. I tried to stay calm, but it felt like he was gaslighting me. I left feeling angry, upset, and convinced that attending the wedding would be emotionally damaging for me. I told Emma that I couldn't attend. I explained that I loved her and wanted her to be happy, but I could not be in an environment where I felt insulted, dismissed, or disrespected. I offered to celebrate with her privately at another time, but she reacted very negatively. She accused me of trying to control her wedding, of being selfish, and of not caring about her happiness. She also started sending passive-aggressive messages to our parents, framing the situation as if I were the one being unreasonable. Our parents are disappointed, but somewhat understanding. They said they wish I could attend, but that they understand my position. A few of our mutual friends have expressed confusion, saying that I should just put up with it for one day, and that weddings are about compromise. But for me, this isn't about one day. It's about being in a toxic environment and validating someone who has been consistently disrespectful. I know this makes me look extreme, but I've tried multiple times to set boundaries, talk to Emma, and explain how Jason's behavior affects me. Each attempt has been met with dismissal, gaslighting, or guilt tripping. I feel like attending would not only hurt me emotionally, but also give Jason and Emma the message that their behavior is acceptable. I also worry about the long-term consequences. If I attend, I fear I'll be walking on eggshells, enduring subtle insults, and ultimately being resentful toward my sister and her new husband. I've already begun distancing myself, and this decision feels like the culmination of many years of neglecting my own mental health in favor of maintaining peace. Emma has reached out multiple times since my refusal, asking me to reconsider and claiming she feels hurt and betrayed. I want to maintain our relationship, but I also cannot sacrifice my well-being. I've tried to explain that my decision isn't about rejecting her, but about protecting myself from a toxic situation. So, Reddit AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé. I know it's a big event in her life, but I feel like my emotional safety has to come first. I've been accused of being dramatic and selfish, but I honestly feel like this is a boundary I cannot compromise on. I want to support her in some way, but I also want to preserve my mental health and dignity. I haven't fully shared all the details with other family members, but if they press, I'm prepared to be honest. I also know this decision may permanently alter my relationship with Emma, and that thought is painful, but I feel like bending now would only set a precedent for further mistreatment. The wedding is in 3 weeks. I've started making alternative plans to celebrate her in a small, private setting afterward. I'm hoping this will show her that I do care and that I'm not just trying to hurt her, but I'm still feeling a lot of guilt. I've read a lot of AITA posts, and I know that family events are often seen as non-negotiable. But I wonder if anyone else has been in a situation where attending a wedding would genuinely be harmful. I feel torn between my love for my sister and my need to set boundaries. Has anyone experienced something like this and found a way to maintain the relationship without putting themselves through a toxic experience? I would appreciate your perspectives. Am I truly the asshole for making this choice? Or is this a reasonable boundary in a difficult situation? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated my husband. This is going to be long, but I want to give as much context as possible. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Lisa, 29F, who has always been the more dramatic sibling in our family. I have been married to my husband, Mark, 34M, for 6 years. From the start, Mark and I have had a strong relationship, but he has a history of social anxiety and gets very uncomfortable in large, unfamiliar groups. I've always been supportive and try to help him navigate family events because our extended family can be overwhelming. Lisa got engaged last year and immediately started planning a wedding that she describes as the event of the decade. She is very particular and likes to have control over everything. I tried to be supportive, even though her planning style tends to be very demanding. She insisted early on that she wanted a small wedding, but then invited over 200 people, including distant acquaintances and co-workers I had never met. She has a friend group that tends to gossip a lot, and I've seen them make fun of people behind their backs. I was worried that Mark might feel uncomfortable. The first red flag came when she asked me to be her maid of honor. I said yes because I love my sister, but from the beginning, the requests were extreme. She wanted me to organize her bachelorette party, a weekend trip that included her entire friend group, some of whom I didn't know, coordinate a massive bridal shower, and even manage her RSVPs. I tried to set boundaries politely, but she would get upset and say, "You're my sister. This is your responsibility too." I finally drew a line when she asked me to help her write thank you cards for gifts she hadn't received yet. That felt unreasonable, and we had a heated argument, but we eventually cooled off. As the wedding approached, she started sending passive-aggressive texts about my husband. Mark is a generally quiet person and doesn't like attention. Lisa started complaining that he didn't RSVP quickly enough and that he might ruin the vibe if he didn't socialize enough. She even suggested in a group chat that he might need an escort during the wedding so he wouldn't make people uncomfortable. I tried to brush it off, but Mark felt hurt and anxious, which made me anxious too. 2 weeks before the wedding, she asked me to meet her at a cafe to discuss seating arrangements. I brought Mark because she had said she wanted him there for input. During the meeting, she immediately started criticizing him. She said he was too quiet, awkward, and might embarrass her friends, and that maybe I should have married someone more outgoing. I tried to defend him calmly, but she doubled down, saying she had a reputation to protect and that her wedding couldn't be tainted by awkward people. Mark got visibly upset and asked me if we could leave. I told Lisa that we would, and she responded with sarcasm about how dramatic we were being. After that, I tried to talk to my parents and other family members, hoping they would help mediate, but they said that Lisa was just stressed and that I should try to make her happy. I felt torn because I wanted to support my sister, but I also wanted to protect Mark from being humiliated. I spent the next week sending messages to Lisa explaining that Mark would attend only if he could have some space and that I expected her to treat him respectfully. She responded by accusing me of holding him back and being selfish. The breaking point came 3 days before the wedding. Lisa texted me a long message detailing how she expected me to manage Mark's behavior at the wedding. She said he couldn't sit quietly at a table because it would look bad in photos and that I should keep him engaged at all times. She also said if he didn't participate in dancing, I needed to get him on the dance floor. I showed Mark the messages, and he was visibly upset. He asked me to consider not going because he didn't want to be humiliated in front of hundreds of people. I felt trapped because I didn't want to hurt Lisa, but I also didn't want to force my husband into a situation that would cause him distress. After thinking it over for a few days, I decided to tell Lisa that we would not be attending. I explained calmly that Mark's anxiety and the way she had treated him made it impossible for us to be comfortable at the wedding. I also said that I loved her and wanted to celebrate in a way that respected everyone's boundaries. Lisa responded with a long rant, saying I was being selfish, controlling, and disrespectful, and that I was choosing Mark over my family. She also texted our parents and other family members, saying that I had abandoned her. Since then, I have received multiple calls and messages from relatives asking why we aren't attending and implying that I am the problem. Some have even accused me of letting my husband dictate my life. Mark feels terrible because he doesn't want to cause family drama, but I feel like my sister's behavior crossed a line. I have tried to explain that no one should be subjected to that kind of treatment, but I feel isolated. I know some people might say I should just suck it up for one day, but this situation felt more like emotional abuse than normal wedding stress. I also feel like my sister's expectations were unrealistic and unfair, especially given Mark's anxiety. My parents have been pressuring me to reconcile and attend post-wedding events, but I'm hesitant because I don't want to put Mark in an uncomfortable position again. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated my husband? I want to emphasize that this wasn't about me being lazy, dramatic, or unwilling to help. This was about protecting my spouse from being publicly humiliated. I'm genuinely torn because I do love my sister and I don't want to permanently damage our relationship, but I also feel that boundaries are important. I would appreciate honest judgment. Did I overreact, Or was this a reasonable stand to protect my marriage? AITA for refusing to let my brother stay with me indefinitely, even though he claims he has nowhere else to go. I, 35F, have a younger brother, Adam, 29M, who has always struggled with stability, jobs, finances, relationships, you name it. I've tried to help him over the years, but I've had to set firm boundaries because his problems tend to snowball and end up affecting my life. I live in a 3-bedroom townhouse by myself, and while I have a comfortable life, it's structured and relies heavily on my routines, my job, and my personal space. A couple of weeks ago, Adam called me in tears. He had been evicted from his apartment because he didn't pay rent for 3 months. Apparently, he was living paycheck to paycheck, and when his hours were cut at work, he fell behind. He also mentioned that his girlfriend broke up with him during this time, and he had nowhere else to go. His plea was that he needed to move in with me indefinitely until he could get back on his feet. I was shocked and immediately hesitant. My townhouse has 3 bedrooms, but one is my home office, one is the master bedroom, and the third is a spare guest room I use occasionally. I explained to Adam that while I love him and want to support him, living with him indefinitely is not feasible. My life and my routines would be completely disrupted. I also told him that I need to maintain my work-from-home environment, and having him and potentially his belongings occupy the space long-term would interfere with that. I suggested alternatives, helping him find a short-term rental, assisting with deposit and first month's rent, helping him look for roommates, or even helping him find financial aid programs or community resources for housing. Adam got very upset. He said I was being selfish and cold, that family should help family, and that I have a moral obligation to let him stay. He kept emphasizing that he had nowhere else to go and that other friends had ditched him when he needed help. He also said that he trusted me and my home, implying that refusing him would mean he would have to face hardship alone. I reminded him that I am willing to help in multiple ways that don't require me to compromise my home or life, but he rejected all suggestions, insisting that only moving in would solve his problem. I started thinking about the logistics. Living together indefinitely would be challenging. I work from home, so I rely on a quiet environment and a predictable schedule. I also have a dog who is accustomed to a calm household, and I worry about how introducing a new person long-term would affect him. Financially, Adam has no history of budgeting or contributing reliably. If he moved in, I would likely have to cover additional costs for groceries, utilities, and other household expenses indefinitely. I also considered past experiences with him staying over temporarily. Even short visits have caused tension, dishes left unwashed, arguments with other friends, and overall disruption of my space. I offered a compromise. I could contribute a significant portion of short-term rental, help him pay a few months' rent to get him stabilized, or even co-sign with him for a small apartment if he could demonstrate that he could manage his finances responsibly. He flatly refused, claiming that moving in with me was the only solution that made sense and that all other options were too complicated. He even suggested that if I didn't allow him to move in, he would be forced to live on the streets temporarily, which made me feel guilty but also reinforced my sense that living together was not a sustainable solution. Our parents have weighed in, and the advice is split. Some say I should let him stay temporarily because he has nowhere else to go. Others agree with me, noting that cohabitating indefinitely with Adam would create significant stress and could harm both our relationship and my own well-being. I've tried to communicate to Adam and our family that I am not refusing to help. I am refusing to put my life, home, and stability at risk, but the distinction seems lost on him. Adam has become increasingly resentful. He sends me guilt-laden messages multiple times a day, saying I don't care about family and that I choose comfort over people. I feel torn because I want to help him, and I recognize that he is genuinely in a difficult position, but I also have to protect my own life and routines. I worry that if I relent, it will set a precedent for future crises, and he will continue to rely on me as a safety net rather than working to stabilize his life independently. I've also considered temporary solutions that could satisfy both of us. Short-term stays with strict timelines, contributing to a rental while he looks for work, or helping him find a roommate situation where he can rebuild his stability. He refuses any option that doesn't involve him moving in with me directly. I feel trapped because I want to be supportive, but I cannot ignore the long-term consequences for myself, my home, and my mental health. So, AITA for refusing to let my brother move in with me indefinitely, even though he claims he has nowhere else to go and says I'm the only family he can rely on. AITA for confronting my sister about her parenting choices at my birthday party. This is going to be long, so I'll try to be as detailed as possible. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Emily, 28F, and a younger brother, Max, 25M. Our family has always been close, but things have gotten tense over the last few years. The main issue is Emily's parenting style. She has a 5-year-old daughter, Lily, and a lot of people in our family feel she's a little overprotective and strict to the point it feels controlling, but we try to mind our own business. The problem is Emily doesn't see it that way, and she can get defensive if anyone comments. My birthday is usually a big deal for me, and this year I decided to host a casual dinner at my apartment. I invited a mix of friends and family. My sister was there with Lily, and I expected it to be relatively low stress, but it quickly escalated. The night started fine. Everyone was chatting, eating, and enjoying themselves. Lily is generally a sweet kid, but she's energetic and likes to run around. At one point, she knocked over a small lamp while running near my coffee table. I didn't make a huge deal out of it because, honestly, accidents happen and the lamp was replaceable. I helped Lily pick it up, and she said sorry. Emily immediately got in her face and started scolding her loudly, telling her she should never run inside someone else's house, how careless she is, and that she should think about other people for once. It was way over the top, and Lily started crying, and honestly, I felt bad for her. I tried to calm things down and suggested Emily take Lily into the other room for a few minutes to cool off, but Emily refused and kept lecturing her in front of everyone. At that point, I lost my patience. I told Emily, firmly, that she needed to stop yelling at Lily and that it was just a lamp and an accident, not a crime. I also said that I was hosting, and I expected her to respect my house rules and the atmosphere I wanted. I tried to keep my voice calm, but I was definitely angry. Emily got defensive immediately. She accused me of not understanding how to raise kids and said I was undermining her authority in front of her daughter. She started listing all the reasons I was wrong about parenting, saying that children need discipline, and I didn't know how to enforce it. Things started to escalate, and my brother tried to intervene, saying we should all just relax and enjoy the night. But Emily was on a roll. She said I had no right to tell her how to treat her child, that I didn't have kids and therefore didn't understand, and that I was being judgmental and overstepping as usual. By this point, Lily was crying harder, my friends were uncomfortable, and the atmosphere was tense. I told Emily that if she didn't calm down, she and Lily would have to leave. She said she would leave if I continued to lecture her in front of everyone, so I reluctantly backed off. She gathered Lily and stormed out. My brother stayed behind and tried to smooth things over, but it was awkward for the rest of the night. Several of my friends later mentioned that they were shocked by how hostile it got, and I felt guilty for ruining what should have been a fun celebration, even though I still felt that my sister overreacted. After that night, Emily hasn't spoken to me. Our parents have tried to mediate, but she insists that I crossed a line by criticizing her parenting publicly. I understand that she might feel attacked, but from my perspective, I was defending my home and tried to prevent her from embarrassing Lily or making her feel scared. I honestly wasn't trying to lecture her. I just wanted the situation under control. My brother and some family members think I was justified, but my parents are worried that I escalated the conflict by confronting her so directly. The whole situation has left me anxious about future family gatherings. I feel like I should have maybe said something more gently or privately, but at the same time, it felt like the moment. Required immediate action to protect my home and my guest, Lily, from a public scolding. I'm torn because I don't want to ruin my relationship with my sister, but I also don't think it's fair for her to expect me to sit silently while she yells at her child in my house. So, AITA for confronting my sister at my birthday party about how she treated her daughter, even though it caused her to leave and created tension. AITA for refusing to let my sister's kids stay with me after she abandoned them for a week. I, 32F, live in a small apartment in a mid-sized city. I've always been independent, and I work long hours as a software engineer, so my life is pretty structured. My sister, Emily, 28F, is single and has 2 kids, Noah, 7M, and Lily, 5F. She's always struggled to keep a steady job and has a history of impulsive decisions. Over the years, I've helped her financially and sometimes even watched the kids for short periods, but I have strict boundaries because I have my own life and responsibilities. A couple of weeks ago, Emily called me in a panic. She had to leave town for a last-minute emergency related to a friend, and she asked if I could watch Noah and Lily for a week. I told her I couldn't commit to a full week because I had a big work project coming up, but she begged and eventually guilt-tripped me by saying the kids would be traumatized if I didn't take care of them. I reluctantly agreed, thinking I could manage because my work allows me to work from home. The first day was manageable. The kids were a little messy, but otherwise behaved. I had planned to keep them on a routine, with set times for meals, homework, and bedtime. Emily had a habit of letting them eat junk food all day and staying up late, so I thought a structured week would help them. By day 2, though, things started falling apart. Noah and Lily both resisted every instruction I gave. Noah refused to do his homework, and Lily threw tantrums multiple times a day. I tried to be patient, but I was on tight deadlines for work, and constant interruptions made it almost impossible to focus. Around day 3, Emily texted me updates about her trip, mostly complaining about how I was handling the kids. She accused me of being too strict and said I wasn't giving them enough freedom. She also mentioned that she had expected me to take them to her friends' events, even though I had clearly said I couldn't. By day 4, the situation escalated. Noah drew on the walls, and Lily spilled juice on the couch multiple times. I tried to handle it calmly, but after spending the entire day cleaning up messes and managing tantrums while trying to finish my work, I hit a breaking point. That evening, I called Emily and told her I couldn't continue watching the kid for the full week. I explained that I had underestimated the challenge, and my work was suffering because of the constant disruptions. I suggested she come back early or find another family member or friend to help. She reacted badly. She accused me of abandoning her children and said I was selfish for not putting her needs above my career. She said I had no idea what being a parent was like and implied that the kids would resent me. I refused to change my mind. I reminded her that she had asked for my help at the last minute and that I had tried to help, but a full week of childcare without preparation was beyond what I could handle. She started sending me frantic texts, alternating between pleading, guilt-tripping, and even threatening to call Child Protective Services to rescue the kids. I didn't respond to the threats and tried to focus on work, but the stress was overwhelming. By day 6, Emily returned, claiming she had sorted everything out for her friend's emergency, even though the kids had clearly been in my care most of the time. She walked in and immediately started criticizing how I had managed them. She said I was too controlling, that I didn't let them be kids, and that my apartment was boring compared to her house. Noah and Lily seemed a little happy to see her, but also visibly anxious after the week. I stayed calm and told her that I had done my best and that I wasn't going to take responsibility for her sudden last-minute trip. After she left with the kids, she sent me a long text accusing me of ruining her children's week and threatening to stop speaking to me if I didn't apologize and admit I was wrong. I haven't responded because I genuinely feel I was reasonable. I gave her fair warning about my limits. I try to help, and I even took on most of the week despite my busy schedule. I think it's unfair that she expected me to drop everything and take on full parental responsibilities for a week at the last minute. However, my family is divided. My parents say I should have found a way to make it work because it's family, while some friends say I was right to set boundaries. I'm feeling a mix of guilt and anger because I thought I was helping, but now I'm being accused of being selfish and neglectful. So, AITA for refusing to take care of my sister's kids for a week when she abandoned them on short notice. Even though I had my own commitments and tried to help as much as I could, AITA for refusing to lend my brother money for his emergency and ending up being called selfish by my entire family. I, 32F, have always tried to be responsible with my finances. I grew up in a family where money was often a source of stress, and I've worked hard to make sure I'm financially stable. I own my home, have a decent savings account, and try to budget carefully. My brother, Jason, 29M, on the other hand, has always been more, let's say, spontaneous with his spending. He's had multiple credit card debts, maxed out loans, and a habit of buying things on a whim, often blaming bad luck or circumstances when he struggles to pay bills. 2 weeks ago, Jason called me late at night in a panic. He said that his car broke down and that he had no way to get to work, and if he didn't fix it immediately, he would lose his job. He claimed that the mechanic's quote was $1,200, which he couldn't cover because all his money was tied up in bills and some other unavoidable expenses. I asked him if he had considered using public transportation temporarily, borrowing from his friends, or even negotiating a payment plan with the mechanic. According to him, none of these options were viable. He insisted that I was the only person who could help him, and he needed the money within 24 hours. I told him honestly that I wasn't comfortable lending him $1,200. I explained that I was happy to help in other ways, like researching affordable mechanics, helping him find a loan with lower interest rates, or even giving him rides to work for a short period. I also reminded him that he could consider a temporary alternative like a bike or carpooling. Jason got extremely angry. He told me that I was being selfish and unsupportive, especially since he had helped me in the past whenever I had emergencies. I reminded him that the emergencies he had helped me with were relatively small, and I had always paid him back promptly. After this conversation, things got worse. Jason started messaging our family group chat, explaining the situation and emphasizing that I refused to help him in his hour of need. He framed it as me choosing money over family and painted me as the villain. My parents, who have always had a soft spot for him, immediately called me, asking why I wouldn't help my brother. They argued that family should support each other unconditionally and implied that I was greedy for not giving him the money. My siblings, who were closer to Jason, also started chiming in. They said that I should make an exception, just this once, because it was an emergency. I tried to explain my side, calmly and repeatedly. I explained that while I do care about him, I also need to be responsible with my finances. Giving him $1,200 would have meant withdrawing a large portion of my savings and putting my financial stability at risk. I also explained that enabling his spending habits wasn't actually helping him. It would only make him reliant on others and not encourage him to manage his money better. I even suggested a smaller loan or a partial payment, but they insisted it wasn't enough. Eventually, the argument escalated to our parents insisting that I either give him the money or risk breaking the family bond. I felt cornered and frustrated because this situation is exactly why I've been cautious in the past. I agreed to drive Jason to the mechanic temporarily to at least help him figure out a solution, but I refused to hand over the money. The aftermath has been tense. Jason barely talks to me now, and our parents have been giving me the silent treatment intermittently. Other siblings have also made passive-aggressive comments about my lack of generosity at family gatherings. I feel like I'm being punished for being responsible, and I can't shake the feeling that the family expects me to prioritize his financial irresponsibility over my own well-being. A few days after the incident, Jason managed to find another mechanic who did the work for $700, which he covered. Through a combination of borrowing from a coworker and using some savings he hadn't mentioned. When he shared this, he made it clear in the group chat that he could do it without my help, but I still could have helped if I cared. This comment triggered another round of messages from our family, accusing me of selfishness and lack of compassion. I've been struggling with whether I was wrong. I understand that family support is important, but I also feel like constantly bailing out someone who mismanages money isn't really support. It's enabling. I also believe that financial boundaries are valid and necessary. But now I'm being treated like the bad person for trying to protect my stability. So, AITA for refusing to give my brother $1,200 for his car repair, even though he framed it as an emergency and our family thinks I'm selfish. AITA for refusing to let my boyfriend's sister live with us permanently, even though she says she has nowhere else to go. I, 32F, have been living with my boyfriend, Daniel, 34M, for 3 years in a 2-bedroom apartment in the city. Life has been comfortable for us. We both have steady jobs, a manageable routine, and a home we enjoy. I work from home part of the week, and Daniel has a demanding schedule that requires focus. Our apartment is not huge, but it works for us, and we value our personal space and privacy. A few weeks ago, Daniel's younger sister, Vanessa, 28F, called him in a panic. She recently broke up with her long-term boyfriend and was evicted from her apartment after missing several rent payments. She claimed she had no friends or family nearby willing to take her in and said she had nowhere else to go. Daniel immediately suggested that she could move in with us temporarily until she got back on her feet. I was blindsided because Daniel did not ask me before extending this offer. I expressed my concerns immediately. I told him that our apartment is too small for another adult long-term, that I value my personal space, and that my work-from-home setup requires a quiet environment. Daniel brushed off my concerns, insisting it would only be temporary and that helping family in need is the right thing to do. I offered alternatives. I suggested we help Vanessa find a short-term rental, contribute financially to a deposit or first month's rent, or help her connect with roommates or local housing programs. Daniel said none of that would work and that Vanessa was desperate, implying that letting her move in was the only humane option. I reminded him that temporary could quickly turn into indefinite cohabitation, and that even a month or 2 in a small apartment can create tension. He said I was overthinking and being unsympathetic. Vanessa moved in last week. As I anticipated, things have been challenging. She has very different habits from ours. She stays up late, eats our groceries without asking, leaves dishes in the sink for days, and uses our living room and office space freely, despite my needing quiet to work. She also invited a few of her friends over, saying it would be lonely otherwise, and Daniel didn't set boundaries. I tried talking to both of them. Vanessa said she would try to be better, but didn't commit to anything concrete, and Daniel laughed it off, saying I was being dramatic. The situation has made daily life stressful. I can't concentrate on work, I feel constantly on edge, and I have no real privacy. Even our dog is anxious because the new person disrupts the usual routine. I started setting boundaries, asking Vanessa to respect shared spaces, contribute to household chores, and keep visitors to a minimum. Daniel sided with her or ignored the requests. Vanessa also began acting as if she's part of the household permanently, talking about decorating her corner of the apartment and rearranging furniture. I've tried multiple solutions. I offered to help her financially to secure a small sublet, suggested she look for a roommate arrangement, and offered to assist with applications for housing or temporary living spaces. Daniel and Vanessa refused everything except moving in with us. Daniel says I'm being selfish and unsupportive, that I'm prioritizing my comfort over family, and that if I cared, I would let her stay. Vanessa guilt-tripped me multiple times, bringing up that she has nowhere else to go and that Daniel and I are the only family she can rely on. Friends and family are divided. Some say I should be more accommodating and generous, especially since Vanessa is in a difficult spot. Others say I am justified in setting boundaries and protecting my space, pointing out that Daniel is disregarding my feelings and that living with someone indefinitely in a small apartment is unreasonable. I feel guilty because I do care about Vanessa and her situation, but I also feel my needs and our routines are being ignored. Daniel has become resentful. He says I don't care about his sister and that I'm creating unnecessary conflict. We argue frequently about Vanessa's behavior, the lack of boundaries, and the stress it's causing. I worry that our relationship is being strained permanently because he seems unwilling to see my side. I've even suggested that we create a strict timeline with rules if she moves in, but both Daniel and Vanessa rejected it. Vanessa claims she cannot guarantee a timeline because she doesn't know how long it will take to find her own place, and Daniel says it's too controlling to ask for rules. I feel trapped because I want to help, but I cannot compromise my home, work, or mental health indefinitely. So, AITA for refusing to let my boyfriend's sister live with us permanently, even though she claims she has nowhere else to go and he insists it's only temporary? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after what happened at our family reunion. I, 29F, have always been close to my family, but over the past few years, things have become increasingly complicated. My younger sister, Emily, 26F, is getting married in 6 months, and while I initially thought I would be overjoyed, recent events have made me seriously reconsider attending. I need some outside perspective because everyone in my circle seems biased, and I feel like I might be overreacting. Last summer, our extended family had a reunion at my parents' lake house. It was supposed to be a fun weekend, but it ended up being emotionally draining for me. To give some context, our family is very tight-knit, but they also have a long history of favoritism and passive-aggressive behavior. Growing up, Emily was the golden child. She was always praised for her achievements, while I often felt overlooked, especially in areas that mattered to me, like academics and sports. I worked hard to carve out my own identity, and I've been largely independent, living in another city for the past 7 years. During the reunion, I noticed that my parents were heavily involved in planning activities and seating arrangements that catered exclusively to Emily and her fiancé, Josh. That in itself would not have been a problem if they hadn't gone out of their way to publicly ignore my contributions. I had spent hours preparing a slideshow of family memories spanning the past 15 years, which I thought would be a heartfelt gift to everyone. When it was time for the presentation, my dad briefly thanked me, and my mom didn't acknowledge it at all. In contrast, Emily had several of her minor contributions, from helping with decoration to bringing snacks, highlighted repeatedly by both parents. It stung, but I tried to let it go. The real breaking point came the following evening. We had a family dinner, and I was chatting with a few cousins I hadn't seen in a while. Emily approached me, smiling and waving, but then said, "Oh, by the way, Mom and Dad want me to tell you that you shouldn't bother bringing anything to the wedding. They think it might clash with the theme." I was shocked and hurt. I didn't respond immediately. Later, when I confronted my parents privately, they insisted they never said that and implied that Emily had misunderstood. The fact that Emily delivered the message herself made it feel intentional, like she was trying to control me. Things escalated when my aunt, who has always had a passive-aggressive streak, made a comment in front of half the family. She said, "It's nice that you tried to make a gift, but some of us know how it feels to be the less favored one." Everyone laughed awkwardly, but I could feel my face flush. Emily laughed along with everyone else. I left the room shortly after, and my parents didn't ask if I was okay or why I had excused myself. The next day, Emily cornered me again. She said, "I don't understand why you're so upset. We're just excited about the wedding, and everyone is being silly. You need to lighten up." I explained that I felt hurt and excluded, that my effort for the slideshow was minimized, and that her message about the wedding felt controlling and dismissive. She rolled her eyes and told me I was overreacting, accusing me of making everything about myself. At that point, I realized that no matter what I said, Emily would not acknowledge my feelings. Since then, I've tried to communicate with my parents and Emily multiple times. My parents say that I'm reading too much into things and that I should focus on celebrating Emily instead of holding grudges. Emily, meanwhile, has started sending me passive-aggressive texts about wedding details like what I should wear and has repeatedly said, "It's going to be a family celebration. Everyone should just be happy." The problem is, in their world, being happy seems to mean ignoring my feelings completely. I decided to step back and not volunteer for any wedding-related duties. I also told Emily that I wouldn't be bringing a gift. I planned to send her something modest after the wedding. She responded angrily, accusing me of sabotaging her big day and being immature. My parents are now pressuring me to attend, insisting that if I don't, I will ruin family unity. My extended family has even reached out, asking me to just put the past aside for the sake of Emily. I'm torn because part of me feels guilty. Weddings are supposed to be joyous occasions, and I do love Emily in my own way. But another part of me feels like attending under these conditions would only reinforce a pattern of dismissiveness and favoritism that has followed me my entire life. I don't want to be in a room where my efforts are belittled and my feelings are ignored just to make someone else comfortable. At this point, I'm seriously considering skipping the wedding entirely. I would probably visit my parents separately another time to maintain some connection, but I just can't handle the idea of pretending everything is fine for a day that seems so designed to exclude me emotionally. I've explained this to Emily and my parents multiple times, but every time they dismiss my perspective. So, AITA for considering not attending my sister's wedding due to feeling consistently minimized and excluded by both her and my parents? I feel like this might be seen as selfish, but I also feel like attending would be emotionally harmful to me. I'm looking for honest opinions here because my family insists I'm overreacting, but I can't shake the sense that my feelings matter too, even if they complicate a celebration that everyone else seems excited about. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she disinvited my partner over a disagreement. So, this is going to be a long one, but I need some perspective because I feel like I'm being painted as the bad guy here, and honestly, I'm not sure where I stand. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emily, 25F, who's been my best friend since childhood. We grew up very close, shared a lot of milestones, and I've always been supportive of her choices, even when they weren't easy for me to understand. Emily got engaged last year to her fiancé, Mark, 27M, who I met a handful of times at family gatherings. I wouldn't say we're close, but I got along with him fine. He's polite, quiet, and seems genuinely affectionate toward Emily. When they announced the engagement, I was thrilled and immediately started helping her with ideas for the wedding, from color schemes to venues, even helping her coordinate a few vendor meetings. Now, my partner, Alex, 30M, enters the story here. Alex and I have been together for 4 years. He's amazing in almost every way, caring, funny, and incredibly supportive. The only real friction point is that he can be extremely blunt and, at times, tactless, especially when he feels something is unfair or illogical. I've always known this and have learned how to navigate it, but apparently, Emily hasn't. About 3 months ago, Emily invited me and Alex to a brunch she was hosting with a few family members to discuss the wedding seating arrangements and guest list. She specifically asked us to keep it casual and only discuss logistics. I was excited to go, and so was Alex. We arrive, and it's all going well until the discussion turns to her guest list. Emily has a few friends and distant relatives she's considering inviting, but isn't sure if they'll make it or if it's worth the expense. One of them was her cousin's ex-boyfriend, who apparently had a messy breakup with another family member years ago. Alex, in his typical blunt fashion, says, honestly, if there's even a small chance of drama, why invite him? You're going to pay for food and stress for someone who doesn't even matter to you anymore. He meant it as practical advice, but Emily immediately got defensive. She said it wasn't about practicality, it was about family and showing respect. Alex responded, I get respect, but isn't it also respecting yourself and your sanity to not invite people who could cause issues? Again, meant to be constructive, not confrontational. Emily's face went completely red, and she told us both that she didn't want Alex at the wedding. I tried to intervene, saying that he didn't mean any harm and that it was just a comment, but Emily doubled down, saying, I don't need people there who criticize my choices, especially on my wedding day. I argue that Alex had every right to express an opinion, especially when asked, but she wouldn't hear it. She said that if Alex was coming, she wouldn't. I was caught off guard. I've always been the peacemaker between Emily and others, and I genuinely didn't want to make her day miserable, but I also couldn't imagine going to a wedding without Alex. We talked privately afterward, and I tried reasoning with her. It's not like he attacked you personally. He was just trying to help you think things through. Emily replied that it wasn't about logic, it was about feeling respected and safe on her wedding day. She accused me of putting my partner over her, which I found incredibly hurtful. After hours of talking and failing to reach a compromise, I made the difficult decision to tell Emily that I wouldn't attend if Alex wasn't welcome. I tried to explain that it wasn't about being petty, it was about not being forced to exclude someone I love from such an important event. Emily didn't respond for a week, and then she sent me a message saying that I was selfish and immature and that she no longer wanted me involved in her wedding planning. She explicitly said she didn't want me to come at all if I was dragging Alex into the drama. I was crushed. We've been close our entire lives, and to be disinvited like this over a comment seems extreme. I told her I respected her choice, but would not attend, which means I'm missing out on something that has been a huge part of our family history. Our parents are torn. They understand both sides. They think Emily is overreacting, but they also want to respect her wishes. Here's where things get worse. Several of my mutual friends and extended family members have taken Emily's side. They say I'm being unreasonable by forcing my partner into a situation where he isn't welcome, and that I should just leave him behind if I want to attend. Some of them even imply that Alex has a history of being rude, which is not true in my family's experience. I tried explaining what happened at brunch, but they either dismiss it as normal sibling drama or say that my refusal is proof I'm being controlling. I feel stuck. On one hand, I love my sister and want to be there for her, but on the other, I can't betray my partner's trust or force him to attend a wedding where he's explicitly unwelcome. I offered to meet her halfway in other ways, helping with planning, sending a thoughtful gift, writing a speech she could read aloud, etc. But Emily insists that my presence isn't worth the risk of having Alex there. I'm not sure if I'm overreacting or if Emily is being completely unreasonable. I've tried every compromise, and nothing works. My parents suggest I attend alone, but that feels like betraying Alex and setting a precedent that my happiness is conditional on leaving him behind. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she disinvited my partner over what I see as a minor disagreement? Or am I overvaluing my relationship with Alex over my sister's big day? I'm genuinely torn because I love them both, but I also feel like I'm being unfairly vilified for standing by my partner. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.